The Man in Her Closet. Daddy, do you know about the man who lives in my closet? I froze. A man living in Elena's closet? What even? But after a few seconds of thinking, I realized that it's probably just part of her imagination. She's only 7. Her imagination is still running wild. Besides, if a man was living in her closet, I'm fairly sure I would have seen him, with how routinely I have to clean her room up when she falls asleep with toys scattered across her room. I've been in that closet several times over the past few weeks, and there is definitely, without a doubt, no human living in that closet. That's nice, sweetie, I replied absent-mindedly, not actually answering the question. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Sometimes when I have nightmares, he sits on my bed and makes sure no monster comes to get me, she said, smiling while looking at the floor. Eat your food now. I don't want to be late for work again. She nodded in approval and continued with her breakfast. I was sipping some coffee and reading the newspaper sitting across from her. The current headline was something about a masked murderer being caught. Good riddance. Daddy, I'm done, she exclaimed with a clean plate and a wide smile on her face. Good job, sweetie. Now get your shoes on and let's roll out. I always said roll out when we were leaving. Elena was a huge Transformer fan and loved it. I took her plate to the kitchen sink to wash it as she got her backpack and shoes on. It was a competition every day, seeing who would finish their task first. This time, unfortunately for me, she won. She was skipping in a circle, chanting about her victory over me. I let out a hearty laugh before opening the door for her to run to the car as usual. The rest of the day, nothing out of the ordinary happened. I dropped Elena off at her school, drove to my office job, filed some papers and made some spreadsheets before driving back home to get ready to pick Elena up. Except Elena wasn't on my mind this afternoon. It was the man she said was in her closet. What she said that morning had made me mildly paranoid. Sure, there might be no man in her closet, but that's not an absolute confirmation. I'd have to check it out to quell all possible doubts. I proceeded up our creaky wooden staircase to her room. The door of it was completely pink, with Elena written out on it in golden glittery letter stickers. The doorknob was rounded and bronze-colored. I opened the door to see a mostly clean room with an unmade bed, per usual. Her closet doors were closed together and unlocked. I paused my quest to the closet to tidy up her bed, and placed the few toys lying around back into the toy bin. With that out of the way, I walked over to the closet. Its doors were wooden, sliding ones which met in the middle. Without hesitating, I grasped the handles of them and brought them apart. Her clothes were hanging as normal, with some boxes on the floor of it. The wall wasn't too far from the entrance, and it was clear that the closet was completely empty. My worries were gone and my usual routine resumed. I prepared some food in the kitchen for when Elena came back and got in the car to drive her home. We came back, ate lunch, and I helped her with her homework before leaving her to play in her room while I finished my own work. After that, I made dinner for us, and before we knew it, it was her bedtime. I walked up to her room, a storybook and glass of water in hand. She was sitting at the foot of her bed playing with her Transformers. She looked up at me, and I already knew what was ahead. I don't want to go to bed, she wailed. I sighed deeply. Okay, what do you want to do then? I questioned. She sat and thought for a while, no doubt trying to think of an answer that would appeal to me and gain her some extra moments before she would have to sleep. She had her arms crossed and was looking at the floor. Then she suddenly looked up at me. Remember the man who lives in my closet? You don't know about him, right? You want to see him? Sure, if he'll come and see me, I laughed, knowing he was just a figment of her imagination. Elena ran to the light switch and flicked it off, then went to the open curtains. Moonlight washed over the room, illuminating everything in dim white light. You have to be very quiet, okay? If you don't, he gets too scared to get out. She went over to the bed and sat on the edge of it. She beckoned me to sit by her, patting her hand next to where she sat. I walked over and sat down. I knew the man wasn't going to appear out of her closet, but I just wanted to entertain her. She probably didn't want him to see me or me to see him, so she'd probably end up saying, "You made too much noise. He's not coming out tonight." We sat there, motionless and quiet, for about 10 minutes. The closet doors opened. "He's here," Elena whispered excitedly. I just sat there, slightly agape. A slim figure slowly made its way out of the closet. It was lanky and stark white. It had especially short fingers and toes, and its skin appeared to be pulled taut over its body. The head was twice as long as it should have been, and the mouth was toothless. There were 2 folds of skin over where I assumed its eyes to be, and it was completely bald. A quiet, raspy sound could be heard emanating from its mouth, which seemed to be breathing. The creature came through the closet doors and stood up to its full height, a good 2 feet taller than me. Its head barely missed the ceiling of the room. My eyes were transfixed onto the mouth of it, which was completely open, colored blood red. Elena said that this would protect her from monsters, but this was the monster. I couldn't move, stuck in shock. Elena was swinging her feet, looking at the monster as well. "You have to whisper, or he gets scared and leaves," Elena whispered again. The creature proceeded towards the bed in slow, moderate strides. It felt like an eternity before it was standing before us. I mustered up some courage to speak to it. What are you?" It didn't respond, still continuing with its rhythmic, raspy breathing. Instead, it leaned over and placed its face closer to mine. I could see somewhat underneath the skin folds at his eye level, revealing completely onyx circles. It raised its hands, hovering them a small distance away from my ears. Then I heard it speak, sounds coming from its hands rather than the mouth. "I am Elena's dream guardian." Each word sounded forced and difficult to pronounce. "You should not be here." And then it grasped my head with its hands, applying pressure onto it. It brought its mouth closer to my face, and I saw the rough surface of the back of its mouth. Its eyes made direct contact with mine, and I felt like my soul was being sucked from my body. My limbs went numb, and it was like I'd become fatigued in seconds. "Wait, he's my dad! Don't eat him!" Elena whispered somewhat loudly. The creature turned its head towards Elena, looking at her face. "I think you should leave for tonight. We can talk tomorrow, okay?" "As you wish." The creature let go of my head. The fatigue I'd felt was gone, and I was beginning to feel able to move my arms and legs again. It stood up straight, heading back to the closet. My eyes were still stuck on it. Elena was under her sheets. "Daddy, I'm gonna go to bed now. I want to speak to the man tomorrow." The creature was now in the closet. It grasped the closet doors and slowly brought them together again. All of a sudden, I thought I saw something in the monster's face, like something I'd seen this morning. The doors completely shut, leaving me sitting on the bed alone. It took me a few hours to recover from that, before I left to my room. When I was laying in bed, I came to a realization. The monster looked just like the serial killer from the newspaper. One case had a victim's son say that the man came to his room at night while his mother, the victim, was there. The man grasped her head in the same way he grasped mine. The son said she went to sleep, but they all knew she was dead. The person they'd caught wasn't the one they were after. It was the man in my daughter's closet. My daughter had a murderer in her closet.